ED.
Yo.
Oh, it's about that time.
Mhm.
Here we go again. It just feels right this time of year. We know the opponent, Niners, Cowboys in the postseason, back-to-back years now. Nostalgia. Take me back to Lil Ray growing up watching football, falling in love with these Niners. So here we go. Here we go. This is the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. Plenty to get to on this show. Of course, we know who the participants will be in the divisional. Niners will be back at home, red paint in the end zone, and they'll welcome the Dallas Cowboys for the NFC divisional round. We'll get into that. Dallas has talked a lot about last year's meeting in the Super Wild Card weekend matchup. And how will that have an impact on this year, or at least what have they said about last year that goes into this season's game? We'll talk Dak, we'll talk Purdy, we'll break it all down for you right here on the Believe in 49ers pod. As always, we want to encourage you to continue to download, subscribe, rate, and review. We're located wherever you find your podcast. If there's a like or a follow button on your particular podcast subscription service, go ahead, hit that like or follow button. Give us a like on YouTube as well. That's Believe in 49ers, BLEAV. And feel free to get involved in the show on social media. I'm at Haylock on Twitter. He is at _ Eric Davis _. And on Instagram, I'm at Watch Ray Ray. He is at ED25. As always, we're brought to you by the fine folks at Bet Online. Look, whatever you want, they got you covered. Niners, Cowboys, covered. Whatever it is in the NFL going on this weekend and beyond, they got you. NHL, NBA, whatever it is that you want, college hoops, hit up the fine folks at Bet Online. Just go to the website betonline.ag to get 50% on your welcome bonus, and using the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. So ED, got to watch that game. Parts of it. I'm not gonna say I watched the whole game, but not gonna lie to the people like that. But did get to see parts of the game, the Cowboys Buccaneers game on Monday night. As we talked about a couple of weeks ago, you know, the winner had the Giants won. The winner of this Buccaneers and Cowboys game will be coming to the Field of Dreams on a short week. And so you talk about less time to prepare, this, that, or the other. One thing that struck me, though, yeah, it may be less time to prepare for the Cowboys because they're on a short week. But the Niners didn't know who they were playing, right? Until after that game ended.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, the timeline is still the same. Still, the Niners have had a couple extra days of rest. Anyways, the Cowboys win that game on Monday night. Your first reaction upon them winning?
You know what? We talked about it before. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Brady pulled something out and they tricked it off. The Cowboys tricked it off. But, you know, we talked about it. I said Cowboys should win. I was like, they're a better team. They should win. And they did. So it didn't shock me, them doing what they did. Tampa is not a good football team. And on top of that, they had a bad day. So you're less than average ball club and you didn't play well. So that's what's supposed to happen. Dallas was a good football team. So I was like, great. That was great. And like I said, I didn't care which one of them won because they were going to come in and get bloodied anyway. So Dallas is going to come in, and Dallas was a better football team last year. They were a better football team. They're not built to take the punishment that they're about to take. That's the difference.
The 2021 version of the Cowboys were better than the 2022 version of the Cowboys, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Why? They were better offensively. They could score. The quarterback was playing better. They were more of a threat. The 49ers weren't as good offensively or defensively last year. They weren't. And they beat them up. I don't know why they possibly think that it's going to be any different this year.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember going into that game. And I mean, here we go again, right? And
here we go again. Here we go.
Me, and just my thoughts about the Cowboys. You looked at Diggs. You looked at the year he had last season, Parsons as well. There was legitimate concern on my part.
And I told you
And you said, yeah, you said and it played out almost identical to how you said it would play out. I was a little bit surprised by obviously the final score ended up being a one score game, and Dallas had an opportunity at the end, and that was just because of just kind of some weird stuff happening there at the end. But it was a game that the Niners pretty much dominated, and it was their style of game, right? Like, remember, this wasn't this team that was scoring 30 plus points a game. Like, this was, heavy run game. We're going to hit you in the mouth defensively. Nothing's going to be pretty, but it was just going to be an ugly brand of football, and that's how they were going to beat you. And that's exactly the way that game was on the road, less. And it ends up coming down to that, I don't want to say controversial call, but Dallas, they get all the way. They're trying to have this.
They ran out of time.
And they ran out of time, right?
They ran out of time.
And see all the stunned Cowboys fans and those some stunned, some shocked, some in disbelief, some angry. Flipping off Trent Williams and company as they're walking off the field and all that. So I can say this: the level of concern not as great heading into this one as it was last season when these two teams met in the playoffs. Now, that being said, for me on Monday, it was the bad day for the Buccaneers. That was the part that threw me a bit for a loop. Like I thought Dallas would win. Didn't know that they would win as handily as they did. I thought the Bucs would have a little bit more for them, but as you mentioned, it ended up being one of those nights, and it may be the last night for Tom in a Bucs uniform. That's neither here nor there, though. But immediately after the game, the Cowboys, they get to talking. This is who we want. Being the Niners, right? Like,
of course,
we've been waiting for this for a whole year, right? Like, they've had that was their fuel the entire off season, the entire 2022 regular season, knowing that
I love it.
They couldn't get on the ball quick enough, and they simply ran out of time, right? And that's just been the jet fuel for the 2022 Cowboys, and now they get their shot. They're going to go into the Field of Dreams on Sunday, late afternoon, and this is their chance to sort of make good on what happened last year. They want the Niners, and that's kind of what stood out to me Monday night, right?
All right, sounds good in theory. But they don't want that smoke. They don't want that smoke. It sounds good. You may as well, sell all those wolf tickets. You may as well just get there and scream and howl at the moon, because you have to play them. They will have to come to Santa Clara. They got to walk out there on the Field of Dreams. They don't have a choice. So you may as well sit here and talk all this trash while you can. Because that's what happens. You get to do all of that all week long. But then sooner or later, they kick it off. And when they kick it off, all right. So go ahead and talk. Go ahead and enjoy it. Go ahead and, say all this. We've been waiting all year. What, you've been waiting to get put out again? So you literally been waiting all year to get put out again by the same team.
Hey, put that on we're Alex, put that on a t-shirt. But sooner or later, we got to kick it off.
You can do all that talking. I mean, it's great. It's great. It's great. It gets your fan base riled up. Yeah, we've been waiting for this too. No, you don't have the squad. They don't have the squad to come into Candlestick. Into Levi. Because this is the thing right now, and this is what I'm looking at this game. And I touched on it already. Dallas is not as good as they were offensively, and the defense controlled them. This defense is better than it was last year. I don't think you're going to just run through this defense and put up a lot of points. Offensively, we could barely score last year. That's not a problem right now. So Dallas, you had a better defense last year. You had a better offense last year. I mean, the way you were playing at that time. And I'm just looking at it. I don't see it. Playoffs is all about matchups, and they don't match up. They don't match up. Yeah, you got some players on your team that can make some plays. We know that. I know that. But it's just, dude, it's too much sauce. We just got way too much sauce. So the level of concern for me against Dallas, it's like Seattle. It's non-existent. They are in the way. I am looking through Dallas. I just love the fact that they spent all year worried about us. I like it. I like it. I mean, this is great. It's just great. I'm so glad this rivalry is renewed because that's what happened. This is where a rivalry comes into play. This is it, people. This is how, and that's why, when I beat you or you beat me when it matters. That's how rivalries are made. Just because we play each other all the time, that's what I say. Arizona is not a rival. It's not a rival for the 49ers, but the 49ers are a rival to Arizona because they want what you have and you've beaten them so much. You don't feel it. That's why I say I don't lose any sleep over the Rams. I beat them too many times. I can't concern myself with that swoosh on the side of a helmet because it never was in my way. This right here is a true rivalry. I love it. These games, beating these guys up right now. I love the fact that the head coach, it's in his blood. He was there in the 90s when we were sitting there fighting these guys, so he doesn't like them either. I love it. I respect them, but I don't like people saying it all the time. I need to let it go. Like, no, I don't. No, I don't. I like the guys. I have tons of respect for those guys that played on those squads. I got tons of respect for them. That whole coaching staff, Jimmy. I like Jimmy Johnson. All those. I mean, it was great. I like Troy, Mike. I mean, I can go on the defense. All of those guys, Woody and all of them. I like them all. Nate and E-Dub, all those cats. Respect them. Hated them. Hated that star. Still hate that star. Still hate that star. But anyway, back to this one. I like that they don't like us, and let's go beat them down again.
I heard a story today. Fred Warner grew up a Cowboys fan. Now he hates the Cowboys. You talked about, you talked about Kyle, right? Just growing up with it. I got a whole family of Cowboys fans. We fighting. They won't
fight you this week. They won't fight you. They got a couple more days that they can fight. They got a couple more days, but then we gonna kick it off.
And then we go kick it off. You put that on the t-shirt, and then we go kick it off. This is the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. All right, so we look at this. We look at defensively, right? The Cowboys defense, and Purdy isn't Hurts. He isn't even Daniel Jones, for that matter. But he's not a statue like Brady, right? They were able to get a considerable amount of pressure on Brady.
Yeah, Brady can't move.
Brady can't move.
And he looked like he couldn't move. He's never been mobile, but he looked old in that game. The part that I watched, he couldn't move, and that's easy. You can't do that. It's the same with Dallas. It's a good defensive front. You can't have a quarterback standing in one spot anymore because the defensive linemen are just too fast now. So you got to have a guy that can move. And back to what you were saying about Purdy, he can move.
He can move, but also the weapons, right?
Yep.
Considerable amount of more weapons on the Niners offense than on the Buccaneers offense, right? So it's not
so much so that a guy can afford to have a bad day.
Yeah.
That's the issue with the 49ers offense. So let's just say McCaffrey's off. Well, you still got to worry about Debo, Ayuk. You still got to worry about Mitchell. You still got to worry about Kittle. Let's just, you know what I'm saying? Let's just Kittle can't get open. All right. So we'll put McCaffrey out in the pass route since y'all want to double him. Okay, well, Debo is just not getting it done today. Well, guess what? We're going to Kittle and Ayuk, you guys take over. It's just, there's too many. It's pick your poison. And they're playing well.
And they're playing well, and the strength of the Dallas defense may be their pass defense, right? They've not been good against the run.
Yeah,
they're bottom 10 of the league in run defense, right? And that's obviously something that Kyle likes to do and wants to do a lot. So there's that aspect of it too. That's the we're coming at you, we're going to hit you in the mouth part. And you're going to have to be. I think Debo said, I believe it was Debo after the Seahawks game, right? I believe it was Debo. I hope I'm not misquoting him. But he said, yeah, they came in here they wanted a fight, but how long are you going to be able to continue the fight, essentially, right?
That toughness I'm talking about. What do I say? How do you show your toughness as an offense? The way you run the ball, your commitment to running the ball. Defense is hitting people. How do you hit people? How do you get to the ball? How many bodies are trying to smash every time the ball carrier gets the ball? When you get a defense like that, it's hard to run on them because guys are showing up to hit the ball carrier. You don't have a lot of free space to run in. That's what I'm saying. The Niners are just tougher than Dallas. So you look at it right there. You're at the bottom of the league when it comes to stopping another team's run, which is where an offense is going to present its strength. They're going to present their toughness in the run game, and you keep getting bullied. Man, please, all that rah-rah, we've been waiting for you. Okay, good luck with that. Because you are out of your weight class. It sounds good. It sounds good, but you better, I mean, Mayweather a bad boy. He ain't trying to fight Tyson.
Big facts. That said, there are couple playmakers on that defense, right? You got, obviously Diggs had the great year last season. Numbers not quite where they were a year ago. He's someone you got to watch out in the pass game. But Michael Parsons, I mean, he's a dude. He's a dude, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're Kyle Shanahan, you're Kyle Shanahan in this offense, how you combat against him having himself a day?
Well, he's an edge rusher. So there are so many things you can do away from him. There are so many things you can do to negate his speed. He's a speed guy. He can play the run well. I mean, he's an all-around good player. He's a Bosa type player. But you just do things opposite of it, and they can. You use the speed against him with misdirection stuff, which is a major part of this offense. You do what they do a lot of times. Guess what? I know you're coming and you're coming hard. Well, you're going to have guys coming at multiple layers. Like first Trent Williams is going to hit you, and then Juice is going to hit you. And on that same play, now here comes Kittle, who's about to hit you. Oh, yeah, to create that lane. That's what they do. That's what I see Kyle doing. He's there. He's a special guy. He's capable of making plays, and he will probably make a play. You don't want him to make that play, and you don't put him in position to make that play. And you got to understand that from all aspects of it, that being the quarterback as well. When he's singled up, that this guy is capable of beating a single block. That you can't just be standing there forever when he's singled up, because more than likely he's going to get to you. That's who he is. He's going to win more of those than not. I don't care who it is. You're locking him up with Trent. You may say I got a little bit more time, but he's eventually going to win. So that's what you do. You run the offense, but you account for that player. No difference in, I'm playing against a corner that I know is tough to catch balls on. I'm not going to sit there and make my game plan to throw at him when I got the other side of the field. Well, for that matter, I got the entire rest of the field. So why would I try to make my game plan to go directly at this guy? Yes, I'm going to take some shots. I'm going to see if I can catch him sleeping. I'm going to do some things to try and set him up. But the majority of what I do will be away from this guy in certain situations where I know he's at his best. That's all. That's the way I see you playing that out. Because he's not going to just take over the game. You can't allow him to do that.
You can't allow him to just take over the games. That won't mean good things for the Niners offensively. But he's a guy. I mean, like you mentioned, he's an edge rusher. He's been dynamic in that role. But he's a guy that'll move around a little bit. You saw him earlier this week. Line up on the inside, on the inside here. So he's they Dan Quinn kind of getting a little bit creative here in terms of the way he's using him. I think one of the more interesting things to me is Quinn versus Kyle, right? These guys, they led Atlanta to a Super Bowl appearance, right? I mean, these guys, they spent a lot of time around one another, and so I think that's an interesting chess match in itself. Now we saw, to an extent last year, and that obviously is going to play itself out again here on Sunday. Um, One thing, this is the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis, I'm Rahshaun Haylock. One thing that is interesting to me, and we talked about this weeks ago, like when McCaffrey came, and I mentioned sort of a just all the weapons, right? And it's like, okay, it could be these guys on a given night or these guys on a given night, and you used the Warriors analogy. I think you said Clay and Steph. It may have been the analogy that you use as it relates to McCaffrey and Debo. But there was something else that I heard that really struck me, and that's this thought of positionless basketball, right? You see the NBA, you see college basketball,
Yep.
you see that's kind of where even at the lower levels, right? High school, AAU, things of that nature. You kind of see that's kind of where the game has gone over the course of the last couple of years, and the Warriors have been kind of the great initiators of that, so to speak. But Kyle Shanahan sort of bringing that philosophy to the football field, right? So, what in a sense is 21 personnel may not look like 21 personnel
Yeah.
in the football field if you're the opposing defense. And I was watching something late last night, and they were having this conversation. I thought it was very interesting, but it's one of those things where you really put the opposing defense in a bind if you're caught, right?
He checks your rules. He tests your rules.
And well, that's kind of the part I want you to expound on, right? Because we saw this a little bit last year when Debo became the wide back, and it became this big phenomenon through the postseason. And it's okay, is he a running back? Is he a wide receiver? Side or the other. And we saw it, but now it's even a greater deal, right? Now not only is it Debo as the wide back, but now you also got McCaffrey who can kind of do the same.
Yeah.
Hell, Juice is even lined up in the slot at times. So it's in those situations, right? Like Debo lined up in the backfield for you defensively. Is he a wide receiver or is he a running back? And kind of the same with McCaffrey. Who is he?
And all of that depends on, again, it checks your rules. That depends on how you want to play your scheme, because you're going to have certain defenses you're going to run, certain fronts you want to run against two backs. Okay, but is that really two backs? Because you're right. Because they have two backs in the field, is that really 21 personnel? And you have to decide, are we going to play it as two backs, or are we going to view him as a wide receiver in the backfield and play it without nickel guys? Because you're going to have certain defenses. Excuse me, because what it's going to do, again, it will determine who's doing what defensively, where your run fits are, what type of defenses you want to play, whether you are in run fronts, run defenses, are you in more of a passing mode, a pass protection mode, because you are looking for them to throw the ball, and that it is difficult. Last year, I think what teams eventually started doing was Debo is a running back. I think they started off, these are wide. They had three wideouts on the field. This is one back. They're looking at it that way. But I think by the time it got over, they were like, wait a minute. He's a running back. The problem is right now, how do you play it? Because you just said you got too many guys that you can see back there. Because sometimes you look back there and you got Kittle and Juice. Then you got McCaffrey and Kittle. Then you got Debo and McCaffrey. Okay, now you got those guys on the field. You got Debo and McCaffrey, and now they just brought Mitchell out there too. He's on the field. And how do you view that? That's an issue. Kyle, he's a master at that, and then it does. I can tell you right now, it's gonna check your rules. It's gonna test your rules, because the question is it's guys understanding where to play and what to do when they are in those different positions. So it's you're asking a defense to do a lot, or you got to play it very vanilla. You're going to have some base calls to go to. And if you do that, it doesn't take long for them to figure out exactly how to manipulate you and get you into the exact coverage or the exact front they want you in. And that becomes a problem for you defensively.
So what is more effective against this offense? Is it man or is it zone? We saw the Cowboys run a lot of man on Monday night.
That depends. Well, see, they ran a lot of man because of the way the quarterback was playing and what he was capable of doing. And then you also know the quarterback can't run. So if you're playing a lot of man coverage, that means that you're chasing guys all over the field, which means if the quarterback gets beyond that first wave, there's a big void. And he can run a lot.
Purdy is capable of doing
Purdy can run. Yes, Purdy can run. So Purdy's capable of running. So that's not necessarily the best way to play him with man coverage all the time because he can beat you with his legs. So you got to look at down and distance and things like that. So you say what's better, man or zone? That depends on your people. That depends on the personnel that you have. Can you keep him in the pocket with your front four? If you keep in the pocket with your front four, then you can play man. If you can't contain him, if you don't have the guys that with enough speed to get to him, you can't do that because he's going to be able to man coverage. Man coverage is always great. If you have the bodies to put on the bodies, it's the other thing too. When you say man coverage across the board, two things go. Can you stop the quarterback from running? If he's a runner with Purdy, I think that could become an issue. Not that Purdy's a burner or anything, but he's a mover. He's quick enough to move the chains. That's number one. Number two, do you have enough bodies across the board to put a man on a man?
And that's the part, right, for me, right? And that just opens up. I mean, there are yak opportunities, obviously, against zone, but I see man coverage. I see just confusion on some of these drags across the middle and good, like chunk plays, lots of them.
So that's the problem. I don't think you across the board. I don't think you have the guys to cover.
A little different with Tampa, right? I mean, you had Godwin and you had Mike Evans, and that was pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole nother ball game, right? When you start to look at these Niners, because not only do you got two studs out there at wide receiver in terms of BF and Debo, but now you got to incorporate 85, and then 23 will line up in the slot. He'll line up in the backfield like this. And we're not got to the likes of a Jennings or what have you, who in on a third down and make a big grab here.
And the other part about that too is as well as when you mention all those names, you also have to take into account that while these guys are running all over the place, the quick ball, he's still going to run his offense. So when you're in man coverage chasing the guy, you don't have people rallying to the ball.
Yeah,
on those throws.
They're on their guy. Yeah,
they're on their guy. So they're not necessarily when the ball comes out quickly. They're not directed to that slant that IU just caught. So by the time they react, that can turn into a big play or dumping one off to Debo real fast or Kittle hitting whoever catches the ball. Guys are chasing elsewhere. So that's another aspect of it. So Dallas has problems. They got problems. They got problems.
It's very, very fascinating. It's going back to your point about 21 personnel. It may look like it. It may not look like it. And I was watching. I'm a night owl. I was watching a very fascinating conversation last night, and they do this from time to time on NFL Live. And it's Marcus Spears. I heard him say something that I've heard you say, many times on this pod. Whereas Kyle will use your rules against you. Which is very very so we shall see. This is the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. We'll flip it over now. We'll Dak. Look, I mean, there's a lot of many people thought that the Buccaneers would win or had a chance to win this game on Monday because of how putrid a performance it was by the Cowboys in the last week of the regular season against the Washington football team, or the Commanders, I should say. And then, but not only that, just the body of work, especially of Dak leading up to the postseason, right? Like, he has not been the best version of himself. Now he was fantastic on Monday night, but coming into the playoffs, we didn't see that version of Dak Prescott. How come Sunday, he's going to have to go up against this defense, right? He's going to have to go up against a Nick Bosa and company that is a greater unit than the one he came across last season at home that gave him some issues. So what issues do you see Dak having out there on Sunday?
The same ones he had last year. He's about to get hit in the beak. And nobody likes getting hit in the beak. And he's shown all year long, when he's getting hit and the pressure is in his face and he's getting knocked around, he'll just throw the ball up for grabs. That's what he's been doing. Last week was an anomaly. They were in control. They stayed in control. This won't be that type of game. This will be a game where he's gonna have pressure on him all the time, and he's gonna make those mistakes that he's been making, because he's gonna see things. Things are going to be moving faster than Dak in this game. He's going to see once again. I said it last year. I'm going to say it again. Once they see them, you've been doing all that talking. They're going to be bigger. They're going to be stronger. They're going to be faster. They're going to hit harder than you are expecting. And when that starts to happen, things aren't going to go as planned. That's what I expect to see on Sunday. This is not going to be what the speed that they just saw last week is going to be nothing like what they are about to experience, and that's going to be the issue for them. And nor will they ever be in a situation where they're not feeling the pressure. So that's what I see. Dak has not played well this season.
No.
He had a good game last week. He has not played well this season. I mean, he threw some great balls this last game. And no, knock on Dak. Dak is capable of definitely throwing good balls. He really is. But I'm just looking at the totality of your season, the type of player you've been this year, the mistakes you've made this year. I don't think that's going to all just go away when you get pressured the way you're going to get and you play against a talent level that you are about to play against. I don't think those mistakes are going to go away. I see him doing the same thing, and I see this defense taking advantage of it. They don't miss the layups this year.
You talk about being at the top of the league in takeaways. Dak has turned the ball over 15 times this season, and so he led the league in that category in interceptions. And so that part of it, and then their greatest weapons are in the run game. And the Niners have been very good against the run so far this season. They got that two-headed monster in Zeke and Pollard. The outside doesn't really scare me as much. I mean, obviously CD has taken a step, right? But I don't think he's a DK Metcalf, which the Niners saw last week, right? And then you got the tight end who's pretty good in Schultz. And so obviously that's someone who you're going to account for. But we shall see. We're going to get to ED's keys in a minute. But you talk about the toughness aspect of it, right? Like the Cowboys want to run the ball against a team that's very good against the run. Niners bring that physicality on both sides of the ball. I think one interesting thing to me that I saw during the game last week, during the win over Seattle, you speak about just the physicality of this team, right? Niners opponents the week after playing the Niners, 0-15 on the season. 0-15.
Yeah, that's because you're bruised.
Because you're bruised and
everything's sore.
Yeah. We're going to get to ED's keys in just a second. This is the Believe 49ers podcast on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. Time now for ED's keys here on the Believe in 49ers podcast. ED, your keys. We got the Niners. We got the Cowboys. We got the NFC divisional round matchup at the Field of Dreams. Kickoff will be 3:30 p.m. local time on Fox. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi on the call if you're into that sort of thing. And the Niners, of course, playing at home on the red paint, back in front of the faithful for the second consecutive week in this here postseason as the number 2 seed in the NFC, renewing that long-standing rivalry with the Dallas Cowboys. And here are your keys, ED. What we got?
Well, you touched on it. I was going there in the run game. Dallas is going to try to come in, and they're going to try to establish the run. I think they're going to look at it and say, some teams have had some early success running the ball on the Niners, and that's what they're going to try to do. So just go ahead and just take to heart in that aspect of it. Both sides of the ball. This is one of those games. You know that's their strength. They're going to try to do it. I don't think they're going to try to put this on Dak. They're going to try to control the game in that aspect, and they're going to try to slow down the defense and control things in that aspect of it. So don't allow that to happen defensively. Make certain that you put them in situations to where Dak has to throw the ball. He's going to throw it to them. Take advantage of the mistakes that he is going to make when you put him in that position. That's the key on defense. Just keep playing the way you've been playing. Offensively, run it down their throat. Run it down their throat. Have them in the huddle yelling at each other. I know that they are expecting you to run the ball. I know that they are expecting us to run the ball. They are expecting a heavy dose of McCaffrey and Mitchell, and I think you should give it to them. As opposed to going over the top and throwing the ball because they're loaded up for the run, I think you take their hearts just like you used to against Green Bay. This needs to be one of those Mostert nights where you just run it down their throat and you just make them just go home. You've been waiting all year for it. Here it comes.
Music to my ears. Those are ED's keys here on the Believe in 49ers podcast. You know, there's nothing that I enjoy more. Even more so, look, I mean, 500 total yards of offense. That's great. Brock Purdy, 300-something yards through the air last week. That is fantastic. There's nothing I love more than a 300-yard rushing performance.
Take their heart. I'm telling you, take their heart.
That is music to my ears. We'll see the type of game plan that Kyle Shanahan comes out with. Be the Niners and the Cowboys for the second straight year in the playoffs. This time they'll run it back at the Field of Dreams after the Niners went out there last season and knocked off Dallas 23-17. And it'll be the last game of the divisional round. It'll be a 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox, 3:30 p.m. local time, of course, on Fox. That's going to do it for us here on the Believe in 49ers podcast. As always, we want to encourage you to continue to download, subscribe, rate, and review. We're located wherever you find your podcast. If there's a like or a follow button on your particular podcast subscription service, go ahead and hit that like or follow button. Feel free to give us a like on YouTube as well. That's Believe in 49ers. Hit us up on social media. I'm at Haylock. He is at _Eric Davis _ on Twitter. And on Instagram, I'm at Watch Ray Ray. He is at ED25. So, from a partner, Super Bowl champion Eric Davis, I'm Rahshaun Haylock. This has been the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.